Good evening, good afternoon to Roberto. Welcome to the latest interview of Last Bell Boxing. It's a true privilege to be joined yet again by the legend that is Roberto Diaz. Good afternoon, Roberto.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me once again. And to all our listeners at Last Bell Boxing, all the best. Hope everybody's healthy, more importantly than anything, most important, healthy and enjoying the upcoming fights.
And then we're also joined by Andy. Good evening, Andy.
How are we doing, Cole? You all right, Roberto?
I'm good, Andy. Thanks for having me once again.
Pleasure.
So, Roberto, I'll kick off if that's okay with the first question. So, obviously, we've noticed that Jason Quigley's next fight is now over the line. Obviously, we're based in the UK, so not too far from where Jason comes from. So, I just wonder if you'd break that fight down and just give us some background to the fight, because I think it's a great fight, and I think Jason Quigley's slightly under the radar at the minute.
You know, first of all, last time we spoke, we weren't in the same corner.
I wasn't going to bring that up, Roberto.
I have to bring it up right away. You guys are in the winning corner. This time we are in the same corner. I'm very excited. I'm very happy. It's a fight that Jason wanted. I mean, it's a fight that every young little boy, when they walk into the gym and put on the gloves for the very first time, can only dream of. And once they go pro, that's the big fight. That's the Super Bowl. That's the World Series. That's the World Cup for them. And it couldn't have come at a better time. I think Jason right now, mature-wise, experience-wise, hungry-wise, probably with, I'm not going to say for him, but probably the best trainer and where he's more comfortable. I mean, he learned from everybody, but right now where he's best in a place where everything is lined up for him. And now, obviously, it's up to him. He has to do his thing in the ring. It's not an easy fight. Demetrius Andre, the world champion, is undefeated for a reason. He's a two-division world champion. But it's not supposed to be easy. And if Jason, he's more of that throwback fighter to the modern-day fighter, he welcomes that. That's what he wants. It's not about which one's the easiest. In fact, one of the things he told me is, Andre has the WBO title. That's the one I want, because that's the one that Barrera had when he beat Naseem Hamed, and that's what got me into boxing. So everything's aligning exactly and perfectly for him. So I'm very happy. I'm very excited. It's a great opportunity, but I believe he's going to be ready for it.
Obviously, there's a lot of heritage in Ireland regarding the middleweight division, so it's a great opportunity for Jason in terms of a breakout fight, isn't it?
Absolutely. It can lead on to, much bigger fights. It could lead up to bigger opportunities. But we know that task at hand is going to be difficult. But I also have a lot of confidence in Jason because of his amateur experience and what he's been through as a pro.
Well, a lot of people were critical of Andre in his last fight against Liam Williams. So, there is holes in Andre's game, isn't there? There is areas where no doubt Jason can exploit.
I think in any fighter, as they have strengths, there's also weaknesses. It's just a matter of somebody being able to bring out those weaknesses and capitalize on them. And I think he's been around. Jason knows. Look, Jason could go toe to toe, but a lot of people forget Jason can box too. So it's about mixing it up and picking the right moments to bring it, picking the right moments to box. Use the height, use the range. Don't make it into just a boxing match, because you got Demetrius who normally does that. I think Demetrius is taking a little bit more risks as well now, making it, trying to get inside and be aggressive. And Jason knows how to do that too. So I think at the end of the day, the fans, a lot of people might think, you said it, under the radar.
Yep.
I think a lot of fans need to tune in, because when a fighter's hungry and a fighter wants it, and I know Jason's hungry. He's been fighting his whole life, getting ready for this moment. He's going to bring it. And he's going to have the support that night. Believe it or not, he will have the support from all the Irish in Boston. The masses will be coming.
Yeah.
Roberto, Liam Williams had some success against Andrade, putting it on him a little bit, putting him under pressure, and he didn't really like that. Do you think that's the game plan that Jason might?
I think he has. I do. I think he has to mix it up and see where Liam was successful, and getting inside, working the body, and look, a couple of fights ago, Jason, beautiful knockout with a body shot. So you remember he came up in California, learned from a Mexican trainer, knows how to work the body. I mean, Irish and Mexicans fight very similar, blood, sweat, and tears. But Jason also can box. So again, like I said, pick those moments. He's going to have to go out and get the title. So there's going to be more of that aggressive than there is going to be the boxing and movement, but throw him off every once in a while. Like, okay, he came out different this round. Let me settle down. Or right when the other guy's getting comfortable, make him uncomfortable. So there has to be moments, but yes, Jason has to go in there and make Demetrius uncomfortable.
The thing I admire about you, Roberto, and the way you matchmake is, like you've mentioned before, you're a big believer of proving you can do the job, proving you're the best. If you want the titles, then you're going to have to go and rip it from the champion. And you've delivered a great opportunity here for Jason Quigler. And I just hope Jason grabs it with both hands. But he is going to have to rip that belt away from Demetrius Andrade, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, we've seen in boxing, and it's not something new. It's been forever. I mean, and people think all they want, but it's been happening forever. Some bad decisions, and it's bad for the fighter after 10 weeks of sacrificing, or in this case, all his career. This is the big moment, and if you're going to lose because you got beat by the better man. If you're going to lose because you got knocked out. But don't lose because 3 judges felt you didn't win when everybody else saw you win. So in order for that not to happen, just make sure you win every round, as many rounds as you can, and go take it from them. Reality is you shouldn't. A lot of times you hear fans say, well, you got to take it from the champion. And my belief is you just got to win more rounds. As long as you win more rounds, you won the fight. But the reality is, go take it so there's no chance of error. And how do you do it? Knockout's the best way. Yeah. And if not, the next best thing, a clear beatdown.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, I'm looking forward to that fight. I really am, Roberto. Great match.
Thank you.
Roberto, whereabouts are we with Ryan Garcia against Jojo Diaz?
Very, very close. Very close. I'm glad you're asking. I'm glad there's some interest.
Great
I'm excited. That's a fight that both fighters want. And when both fighters want it, it shows proof that, hey, the fights the fans want to see can be done. We're working on it. Hopefully have something for everybody soon. It's not there yet, but I'll tell you what, both fighters want it.
Well, Roberto, I can see that by social media, Roberto. I bet you're rubbing your hands together when you see some of them exchanges on Twitter.
When I see them both going back and forth at each other, it's just making my job easier. Absolutely.
This is a real test for Ryan, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, Jojo is a former Olympian, so there's experience from the amateurs. He's won world titles. He's come up the tough route, which is, like I said in the past, that's the route I like. When a fighter doesn't have to be undefeated, in my eyes, as long as once he's there, he can sustain it. It's not just a fly-by-night world champion, because Jojo's seen it all. He's a rough, tough. I mean, nobody thought we'd see him at 135 against a Javier Fortuna that not many wanted to sign up and fight. And Jojo raised his hand and said, hey, I'll fight him. And he delivered. The original idea is win the title and go back down to 130. And once he won it, it was like, hey, wait a minute, why am I going to go back down to 130 when the big fights are here?
Yeah. So
it's a natural that's the next fight, and we're working around the clock trying to get it done.
Is the plan the winner of this fight goes on to fight Davis?
Well, Davis has a fight coming up. I think, it's a with the unification of the interim and the regular or the super, and let's see how he looks. And then obviously the winner of this one will sit down with them and see what's next for them. They may each have a different plan, but this is going to be a good, tough fight. If it gets done, this is going to be a real good fight because you have two different styles, and who can impose their style or experience over the other.
Ryan's learning really, really quickly, isn't he? It's like
yes, Ryan's definitely a quick learner. Natural abilities, obviously, there's height, there's reach, there's speed, there's youth. He has a good trainer in Eddie Reynoso now that's teaching him really good along with his father. So it is, to me, it is a 50-50 fight because with Jojo, you have a lot of experience now. Again, like I said, from an Olympic standpoint of view to a professional level, you have a fighter that even in the new weight, which I would have told you over a year ago, no, it's too much weight for him. Physically, he looks bigger, stronger. There's a confidence level in him now. There's a reason he's fighting because of his baby, his newborn. It brings all of the elements and all the recipes for there's no loser in the fight. There's only winners, and the fans are going to be the ones that are going to win.
I mean, just touching on Ryan Garcia a minute. I mean, I'll do the hand rub again, Roberto, because I mean, the social media following that guy's got is phenomenal, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And that must be a dream for yourself, regarding being commercial. Commercial.
Well, remember when we first signed him, he didn't have what he has, so it's been a progress. But that just shows. Look, to get in the ring, there has to be some discipline.
Yeah.
And to do what he's doing also takes discipline. Think of it. I mean, the average, I can be on the phone on social media 20 hours a day and I won't have a quarter of what he has. So there has to be a talent for that as well.
Yeah.
So I give him all that credit. But a lot of people think, and he gets criticism for that, thinking that's all he does. They don't see that he is in the gym, that he is training, that he is perfecting his craft. So once he's in the ring, they think, oh, look how easy that was. No, it's not easy. It takes months or weeks of preparation to get there and make it look this easy.
I think he's a very, very smart guy. I really do.
Absolutely.
I really do.
And he has, like I said, he has good teachers and a good role model because even at the level that Canelo is today, and as big as Canelo is today, Ryan can see, wow, he's still very disciplined. When it comes to work, there's nobody more disciplined. So it's a good role model for him to see or to be around.
You don't play boxing, do you, Roberto? You don't play it.
Not at all. Not at all. Not when your life's on the line.
It wasn't that long ago, Roberto, that people weren't taking Ryan Garcia very seriously. They were seeing his social media.
I told them years ago that was going to happen because of just who Ryan is. Yeah. Was always going to be doubters. But look, that comes with the territory. And no matter what position you're in, when you're at the top or when you're doing very good, there's always going to be the haters. There's always going to be the doubters. There's always going to be what did I read recently that people are saying, oh, Anthony Joshua wasn't that good. Well, shit, you had to be somewhat good to do what's done in that period of time that he did it. So when still criticizing a lot of it as number one pound for pound boxer in the face of boxing, you got to take it from where it comes, who it comes from. So there's Naseem Hamed always had haters, but guess what? They always pay to see lose, but he put people in.
Yeah, Floyd Mayweather was a master at it, Roberto.
Exactly. We had all of Manchester one day hoping Floyd would lose with Ricky, and it still didn't work.
Yeah.
By the way, happy belated birthday to my good Ricky Hatton.
So obviously, we're going to touch on Lee Wood, Roberto, inevitably. Obviously, coming from his hometown. There's a lot of rumours circulating in the UK that his next fight is going to be Michael Conlan. Now, I'm not going to push you on this, but obviously, it's in the public domain that there's a rematch clause in the Zucan fight. Is there any update or anything that you're happy to share? Obviously, no sensitivity or anything like that, but anything that you could share regarding where we are with the rematch?
Of course. Look, I made it well. I've made it known to Matchroom to all the people at Matchroom, look, we're not looking here to come in and this fight. I think it's a very good fight, and it was ordered by the WBA. In the reduction of titles, the champion has to face the interim champion. So we just got to come to an arrangement that makes sense for everybody. Go on, and in the meantime, maybe Shukan takes an intermediate fight as well, and then the winners can face each other. But there is a rematch clause, and it was exercised. In other words, did notify the champion side and everybody that he wanted to do the rematch. So, look, I'm can come to an agreement, a happy meeting, and everybody defend. It's about the fans, and the fans will win, and all sides will be happy.
Do you think a rematch, when the rematch does happen with Zukan, that it's a different outcome?
You know what? That's a good question. I believe so. I believe so because I didn't see Shukan. And we have to see the rematch to say, maybe I did see Shukan, but now I saw him in against Lee Wood. Or maybe in the next one, I could say, okay, Shukan. So I do think, inactivity hurt him because we had mentioned before the fight, Shukan, on average in his fights, throws close to 100 punches per round. And he was far from that. He was getting hurt with a lot of shots. Lee Wood's not a big known as a, crushing puncher. I mean, pop and here and there, but it's not like you're going in there against an aggressive knockout artist. So I tend to say, look, and it's not taking any credit because Lee Wood did what he had to do to win the title as he said he was. But I take it as, all right, you know what? Your timing was off. The ring rust was there. And I was the first one to say, I don't believe in ring rust once that fight gets going, because from round number one, he's going to throw, 100 punches. So by the fifth round, he's going to be really oiled and ready to go. But I think it did cost him. I think that was a big part. And maybe all those months off and training, you could see possibly an overtraining in him too. And we'll have to see in part two, if there is a part two, because I think Colin's going to say, wait a minute, don't count on part two if I'm coming around.
Who do you think wins that fight, Roberto?
I'm a fan of Colin. And again, I respect Lee Wood. I know he's a neighbor of yours, but I think Colin, I know Colin is going to bring it. He's going to be much more aggressive than Shukan was. And it's going to be a fun fight. It's going to be a fun fight. If it happens, it's going to be a very, very fun fight. And I say if because, right now with COVID, you never know. Fights are falling around left and right. But as a fan, I hope it does happen.
They're not going to have to go looking for each other, are they, Roberto? Toe to toe.
I think more so that obviously now it's two champions. Lee Wood's going to take it to another level. Hey, I like this status. I like being a champion. I like walking through the streets and people calling me champion. You tend to take it to another level. And it's almost like a home type turf war because, both being from Europe and then in the UK. And I think it's going to make it even a more exciting, better fight.
Yeah. Brilliant. Andy?
Roberto, so some of our subscribers keep pushing us on this question, and they wanted us the next time we brought you on to ask you about a specific fight 20 years ago, April 2001.
Marco Antonio Barrera, baby.
Now we know that behind you there's a massive Mexican flag stuck up on your wall.
I don't know if you could see it right here. Yeah, April 7th, 2001. This was Marco's flag from the Hamed fight.
You wouldn't believe,
signed by others.
You wouldn't believe the amount of questions we get about that flag, Roberto. Honestly.
Wow.
You know what, Roberto? This fight as we can't quite see your face.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. This fight has become folklore. It's become a myth in past because Naz was ripping through fighters like they were butter. And then all of a sudden he comes up against this iron wall and everything changed. And from that point on, there was no more Naz. So really, I think really what the subscribers are looking for is, can you give us some stories and your thoughts on the build up to that fight and then what happened during that time period?
Absolutely. I remember it very well. It was, and Marco will tell you to this date, the highest point, the biggest fight, the fight that made him. But again, this is a message so the fans can know, and the other fighters here, when a fighter truly believes he can win, the odds don't mean anything. The fighters believe in himself. Now, every time a fighter's going to say, yeah, I can beat this guy, but they don't believe it deep down inside.
Yeah.
How many of Mike Tyson's opponents walked in there and say, I'm going to beat him, but they were already defeated before the first bell. Marco believed it. Marco, when the fight was announced and made, I remember going into the hotel room, and he was like a little kid that had just been given the biggest gift ever, taken to Disneyland, because he said, this is the fight that I've been working my whole life for. This is the fight that's going to make me. In order to beat a fighter like Naz that's so crazy, you got to be daring to be crazier. And of course, all in Spanish, but that was his meaning. He was so up for the fight. And the camps were so different for everybody. Look a little bit on YouTube and see Marco was in 3 feet of snow running. People had to be in front of him to break up that snow under tough, rough, cold conditions in Big Bear. Very similar to Rocky when he went out there and was carrying the logs in the snow and training. And Naz, even though proximity was close because he was in Palm Springs, and to Big Bear it's probably maybe 3-hour drive, he was in a resort. And not that made a difference in the outcome, but it was one was willing to be uncomfortable in order to get ready, and one needed the comfort. And Naz was already there. Look, Naz was a star. And as much as I didn't like him then, today, I mention as often as I can, we miss the Naseem Hamed. We miss those princes because he was a character. He was a personality, but he was a badass fighter at the same time because he could back it up, and he was exciting, very unorthodox. But look at him, and it's almost like you're watching a tap dancer in the ring with his movements, and boom, a knockout all of a sudden when he least expects. Very unorthodox. How do you prepare for somebody like that? But like I said, I miss him to this day because at the end of the day, he was exciting and fun to watch. At the time, I disliked him because it's like he's in front of us, and Marco, we have to beat him. But one of the fondest memories, one of the biggest memories was we were in camp in Big Bear, and it's like, Marco, remember, this guy's going to push your buttons. And if you remember from history, Marco had a punch a little in a press conference with Kennedy McKinney, and Marco had punched Eric Morales in the third fight press conference. So Marco was very calm, tranquil, but he can light up like this. Yeah. If you push that button, he could light up like this and respond in the way he knew. Hey, with my fist, I'll let my fist do the talking. So I said, hey, you got to be calm. That was the whole thing in the talks and everything. And he's going to push your buttons. You just got to push him back. You got to push him back. So from the LA press conference to the New York press conference, the New York press conference happened on a February 14th, Valentine's Day. One of Marco's trainers, Sendai Tanaka, the Japanese man who did his work, did his mitts, had some red roses that he wanted to give one of the girls that he knew that was on tour. He had a crush on her and wanted to give the red roses over to her. She worked for the television. And Marco said, oh, let me see the roses, and picks them out of his hand, goes over to the podium as it's his turn to talk, and says, Happy Valentine's Day, Nas and gives him red roses. That was kind of things that Nas would possibly do to his opponents. And Nas didn't digest that pretty good. You could see his demeanor like, wait a minute, you're not supposed to be doing this to me. And even in the LA announcement, it was Naseem's birthday. They brought out cake. We were leaving, and they said, Barrera, hold on, don't leave. It's Naseem's birthday. Come share some cake. So Marco came back and said, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know it was your birthday, but on April 7th, I'm going to give you 2 presents, left and right. So little things. And if you remember, he fought in the UK prior to them fighting, and in his trunks was normal, the Barrera, the Tapia, but after the fight, the flap of in front of the trunks comes down and it says, Nas, you're next. So there was little things here and there. And then the final one was, we talked in the camp, and I worked at the time at a probation center. I worked with inmates, and a lot of the things they were saying, because I would tell Marco, you got to tell him something. You got to tell him something. If it comes up, you got to tell him. And what do I tell him? So we're going back and forth, and I said, the inmates out there always say, who's your daddy? Who's your daddy? Who's your dad? And it's like, what do you mean? Well, in Spanish, ¿quién es tu padre? He goes, I like that. I like that. So I expected it to be during a press conference and an interview here or there. Never expected it to be in a fight. If you guys remember the full Nelson, when he slams him in the last round, he leans over and says, who's your daddy now? And then Cortez takes 2 points away, and I'm like, no. Now, I didn't hear him say that. I'm not back inside the ring or in the corner, but I'm like, what are you doing? We won the whole fight. Don't get DQ'd now. And then later, a reporter asked him, hey, what did you tell him? What did you say? He said, what? Who's your daddy now? So from there, the idea came of a poster. We had made like 50 posters with shots of the fight. Marco, as he's being carried after the fight with his hands raised, and then the logo of, or the saying of, who's your daddy now, or who's your daddy. So that's part of the stories there.
Roberto, was Marco aware that it was really popular in the UK? And I'll be honest with you, there's a hell of a lot of people that wanted to see him shut Nas up. Was Marco aware of that?
I think so because he had fought. Well, in that fight alone, and of course, we're talking 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I wasn't one of those that were always in school reading the book, so I didn't really know of the beef between the Irish and the English. All of a sudden, I'm down in the hotel lobby. It's fight week, and there's probably about 25 Irish fans. And to me, it was like, oh, there's Hamed fans. And they saw me with the jacket, and they came over and said, where's Barrera? Where's Barrera? We flew out here from Ireland to see Barrera kick Nas. And I was like, wow, aren't you Nas fans? How are you Barrera fans? So then obviously I learned why, and I was like, hey, Marco, you got about 20, 30 Irish fans. You got to come down and say hello. And he did come down and obviously, spend very little time with them because obviously it's fight week. And, but that's where we started learning. And obviously he has a great friendship from after with Ricky Hatton. Ricky came out this is before Ricky won a world title, came out to a couple of his fights, and we became very close. And Marco went out to some of Ricky's fights or one of Ricky's fights out in the UK. And obviously then through the years, Marco realized maybe after beating Hamed or before in the arena that night, no, because in the first rounds, all you can hear was British fans. And the Mexican fans were way outnumbered. But by the 8th round, you started hearing the chorus of "Si se puede," it can be done, by the Mexican fans, and the Nas fans started quieting down, and that's when you start realizing, hey, things are going our way because the masses are being quiet and the minority is being loud. So it was a very big night. The odds were totally against Marco. But again, a disciplined fighter fought that night. It wasn't the reckless, going in there and taking charge. And Marco knew that a mistake could cost him. Marco knew that was the wrong approach to fight Hamed because you go in there aggressively trying to knock him out, it could cost you the knockout and be knocked out. So he fought very disciplined behind the jab. It's always been in boxing that you don't beat a southpaw with the jab. You beat him with the right hand. But Marco's jab, because he's a natural southpaw, his jab is a real punch. It's not just a jab. That's why the left hook and his jab was so solid, because he is a natural southpaw.
Marco never let Naz get into a groove, did he, that night?
No. Naz expected, and throughout the press, throughout the build-up, they would ask Marco, what's the strategy? Marco said, the same as always. I'm going to go out there and try to knock him out. But that was the trap, because that was the last thing Marco was going to do, is try to go out there and knock him out. So Naz was waiting and waiting and waiting and not expecting this counterpuncher, this boxer, to be moving and changing and jabbing. He's like, come on, sooner or later, you got to get in here and start trading. I'm going to catch you. And that's what he had done always. I mean, Naz could lose 4 or 5 rounds and then just catch you with one punch.
Yeah. He had freakish power, didn't he?
He did. In both hands. And it's one thing to say, that's why he was so different. That's why I do miss him today, is there's fighters that he can come up from an angle that you're not supposed to have power and still have that power carry, because it's an uncomfortable angle to really have power. Yeah. You know, you really have to bring it all in. And he would come up like this and knock you out with an uppercut that was off balance. He's in the air floating.
Yeah. I'll move on to the next question, Roberto, if that's okay. So the next question that come in was, what is the biggest fight that you have matchmade or been involved in? Yeah, I knew that. You might need a minute here.
I might have to come back on that 3rd episode. I mean, I say it in the most humble way, because it's not like, oh, I've made so many. No, it's just through the years, there's so many fights that have meant so much to me in a different way or somehow form, but that makes it, fascinating for me. Randy Caballero going to Monaco and winning the world title on the road. It's something that I really, really cherish, because father and son embracing right when that decision was given, to see that long dream, that dream come true. Paulie Malignaggi going to Ukraine and taking the title from the undefeated. That reminds me a lot of Rocky. That to me was Paulie Malignaggi, the Italian, going over to Ukraine to face the Russian who's never been beat in his backyard, and not only winning and taking the title home, but winning by knockout when Paulie had like 5 or 6 knockouts in his total career. And he was a big underdog. So there's a lot, even in the 4-rounders, there's fights left and right. Deontay Wilder's win over Bermane Stiverne is also something I cherish, because Deontay was the first U.S. heavyweight champion in so many years after that domination of the Klitschko's to actually, he was the first one to bring the title back to America after so many years of domination here. So that was special. Hey, if this Jojo Ryan fight gets made, I'm happy to be a little part of it. There's been so many. Miguel Cotto and Canelo being a part of that. Bernard Hopkins fights, because this is a man that doing the things he was doing at his age was incredible. I mean, so every little thing, working with Eric Morales after seeing him as a rival for so many years during the Barrera time, and he comes to retire here and do some tremendous fights with us. So there's so many in the 14 years of working with some of the greatest athletes ever that have given me a lot of joy.
You must wake up every morning, Roberto, and thank your lucky stars you walked into that shopping mall that day.
Absolutely. There's not a day that doesn't, that goes by that I don't appreciate and of still at this moment living the dream. How a box and that's a great message for the fans, that if you have a passion and you have a love, don't let nobody tell you no. Don't let one door close and feel like that's the end of the world. 2 doors closed, one is going to open. keep striving. Look, sometimes you might have to go in there and say, look, I don't need to get paid. Let me just show what I can do. And dreams do come true. For the fighters, dreams do come true. You just got to work. And for us and the other scene, as fans, it shows. Here was a fan that met one of his idols in the gym, in the mall, and one thing took him to another, that took him to another. I was going to just carry the flag, and next thing you know, negotiating his fights, and next thing you know, working for one of the top promoters in the world. So little by little, and there was times when I wanted to throw in the towel, but if we learn something from our fighters that we watch is don't give up. The next round could get better, and there's always another round. There's going to be bad days, there's going to be good days, but you know what? At the end of the day, my hand needs to be raised when the fight's over.
You got a lot of guts, Roberto, because I'd imagine you was earning a regular paycheck before getting into boxing, and then you took the leap of faith, and I'm sure you had overheads and bills like we all have. So it must have took a lot of guts to go into the game as a novice.
Well, it was tough when Marco said, "Go in and start negotiating," and it was like, okay, let's see here. Where do we start? And, I had worked, like I said, I was a probation officer. I had worked in sales the majority of my life, but really I knew boxing because I loved it. I grew up watching it, but really to go sit down and start negotiating purses and this and that, I could say what opponent not to based on what I thought and what opponent do, but how do I adapt the purse and no values of if I've never been there before? So one of the things was like, I could have said, no, you need somebody with more experience. This was already a multiple world champion. It wasn't just a 4-rounder debuting and said, hey, can you help me? I said, yes. And thank God, because if I would have said no, I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't be in this office, in this chair. I took the risk of saying, what if I ruin this future Hall of Famer's career? And remember, the first fight was a loss. He got stopped by Manny Pacquiao. And it was like, oh my God, this is over. This dream is over. It's a nightmare now. It's not a dream. And then, obviously Golden Boy said, let's bring him back. And then there was Paulie Ayala. There was a third Morales fight. And then there were some very, very good fights that came back after the first Manny Pacquiao loss.
But all I would say is for the likes of me and Andy, you're an inspiration, Roberto. And I'm not blowing smoke, so I don't do that.
Thank you.
Andy will tell you I'm a straight talking kind of guy. But for you to do what you've done, over your career, I'll take me out off to you, because I just think, and you keep it real with the fans, I just find you a very humble guy, Roberto. So,
Thank you. That's the key. That's the key. I tell a lot of the young fighters. That's the key I tell other people that want to come into the business. I tell them, look, expect this, expect that. Be ready. Have a second layer of skin, because it's not easy. But most importantly, remember one thing: keep your word and stay humble. And people say, "Oh, he has no word," or "He has no." Keep your word and stay humble, and always remember that as high as you can go. And I tell a lot of fighters, the fall is very hard too. So keep it real, stay dedicated, stay motivated, and know that no matter how long you've been doing it, you don't always know everything. There's always an opportunity to learn more and more. Tomorrow I can learn more and more, because I don't know it. Until we die, that's the day we stop learning.
Yeah. So a couple of other fighters that we've seen you announce lately is Navarrete's next fight, which obviously from a Lee Wood perspective, we're keeping an eye on Mr. Navarrete, because we think he's a big danger at that weight, don't we, Andy?
Yeah.
And then also Munguia, that looks a great fight. So they're a couple of Golden Boy fights that we're really looking forward to. They are two top quality fights, aren't they?
Well, Carl, Navarrete is with Top Rank, but he is defending his title against the Golden Boy fighter, Joet Gonzalez.
Yeah,
I agree with you. Navarrete, 2-division world champion for a reason. Very awkward. It reminds me of a little bit of a Bazooka Limon from back in the 70s. Big puncher. Joet is also a throwback fighter. I mean, one of his favorite fighters is Barrera. So I think the style in his first opportunity obviously wasn't the right style for him. But I think with Navarrete and Joet, we're going to get a war. There's no doubt that fight can go any other way. And Shukan or Joet Gonzalez, they'll be on Lee Wood's radar. Lee Wood will be on both of their radar. And then with Munguia and Rosado, I'm very excited. I'm very happy that we were able to get that fight done and announced. Rosado's been around a long time. He has a lot of experience. A lot of people don't give him the credit. I think now they're starting to realize this second chapter in Rosado's career is getting better than that first. Sometimes when you're young, the talent's there, but the discipline or the dedication's not there. And then as you're getting more mature and a little bit more towards the end, now the discipline and the dedication kicks in, but with also experience. And I think he proved a lot of doubters wrong when he fought Jacobs. In my eyes and in many eyes, he beat Jacobs. He didn't get the decision. He comes in and fights one of my top fighters in the stable, which is Bektamir Milkuziev, the bully. And the bully was supposed to dispatch Gabe in 3 or 4 or 5 rounds. And somebody forgot to tell Gabe the script. And look, that's the beauty of boxing. One thing Gabe did when he signed the contract against Beck is said, hey, I'm going to beat him. I said, all right, yay. All I want is good fights, bro. So, that's on you. I'm going to beat him. And I'm like, all right, I've heard this. So, yeah, go for it, Gabe. All the best. And he stopped him. I think Beck is going to learn. That's the good thing of when you're a young fighter and there's something like this happens. Beck's going to learn. Beck called a couple days later and said, hey, get me the rematch. No charge. I won't get paid. Get me the rematch. That shows Beck's the real fighter that, hey, it was a bad night. I got caught. I think he'll learn from it and come back and become a better fighter, which then means that loss wasn't really don't take it as a loss. Take it as a lesson. If it was learned, it was a lesson. If it wasn't, then it's a loss because it got forgotten of how it happened. But this really gives me a lot of excitement. I'm really excited about this fight because you got Mexico, Puerto Rico, which always delivers. Munguia is still maturing, still learning on the job and getting better each time. You see a little bit more head movement. You see the jab. In his last fight, I saw him having fun.
He's a proper fighter. He's a proper fighter, Munguia.
Yeah.
Roberto, Liam Smith gets a lot of flack over in the UK for that loss, and I think it's not right because Munguia is world level for me.
Yeah, he is.
And he's getting better. I think time will give Liam that piece of saying, look, guys, see who he's turning out to be. I think it's going to see when people see. I mean, Munguia wants it. Obviously, Gabe Rosado is his next task, but Munguia has been wanting to fight Golovkin, and there's a reason Golovkin doesn't want to fight him, because I think Golovkin says, hey, this guy's too young, too strong, and too dangerous. So Munguia is a kid that's still learning under Eric Morales in great hands. You could, like I said, last time, I even complimented Morales. I sent him a message. I saw him having fun. Not everything was loading up. He was touching, and then coming in with the big punch. So I see him very different now, very much the progress, you could see it.
And that is a dangerous fight. If they're having fun in the ring, you've got a real deal on your hands,
Absolutely.
haven't
you? Exactly.
We can't let you go, Roberto. You've mentioned Deontay Wilder a bit earlier on. We can't let you go without getting your view on the big fight for the weekend coming.
Absolutely. I'm glad you asked. I mean, I'm excited about that fight. It's very rare that, I not saying I don't get excited too often because I love boxing. It is my passion, but in today's time, it's very rare that there's a fight that's made that I'm excited about. And this one I'm excited about. One, I know Deontay from pro debut to 33 to the day he won the world title. There's still a lot of love for him, a lot of support on my side. The right hand is for real. He hits you with the right hand, you are going down. Tyson Fury, on the other hand, I didn't believe in Tyson Fury. I thought it was like, he's just, because he's big and awkward and here and there, he's been matched. And then, okay, until the first fight, when I saw he took away the right hand, I was like, wow, this guy really, really does his homework. It's not just a big guy who talks a good game and promotes the fight, but he is causing a lot of problems. Then he gets hit with the right hand. I'm like, okay, there he goes. And then he gets up and rises. Okay, this guy's for real. There is something more to his game. In the rematch, I said, how much more can Tyson do that he hasn't already done? And I think Deontay can still do more in the rematch. And then we see a different Tyson Fury now, not the boxer, but an aggressive fighter, taking it to Deontay, breaking Deontay down. So I'm like, wow, this guy is very versatile. Then you remember, okay, he beat Klitschko, he beat Deontay. You got to give him credit. You got to start saying, wait a minute, it's not the other guys, it is him. This fight here is very interesting because I don't believe there's a fight in the past that Deontay's wanted more than this one. The respect, the title, the recognition, whatever. I think he is going to show more than he has in the other two fights. I expect a little bit more jabbing to set up the right hand, not just go looking for the right hand. I expect more boxing because, okay, now I know this guy's power. I felt it. I don't want to try to feel it again. I think more leg work. There's questions in my mind. Is Fury taking this lightly? Did he train as hard as the first or second? Has he liked the lifestyle of the king? There's questions. But at the end of the day, I have to pick Fury because of the first fight and the second fight. I have to think it's very different when a fighter loses a fight by decision, comes back and makes adjustments and wins the rematch. It's different when you're a knockout king like Deontay and you get knocked out. On the psyche, it hurts. And to come back right away, he could say all the right things. He could be sparring. He could be doing everything perfect. And corner team, everybody like, all right, everything's going to plan. But it's not until that first bell rings and it's just you and your opponent again that's stake in your head. And does that make him gun shy? Does that make him like back up and just show Tyson, wait a minute, he's backing up for a reason and let me get in there more aggressive? So my pick, Tyson Fury, but this time by unanimous decision.
So you think it goes 12 then, Roberto?
I think it goes 12. I think it's, with the heavyweights, it could be 11 boring rounds, and it just takes one round to be exciting. And I think we saw that in the first fight because of the last round. Everybody was like, wow, the way the knockdown, the way he got up, the way he took charge even after the knockdown. I think this is going to be a very cautious on one side. And on the other side, as long as I'm dominating and in control, okay, I'm okay with trying to put a beat down over 12 rounds. So, yes, I do see it going to 12 rounds. As crazy as it might seem, because with the heavyweights, one punch could end it. I see a 12-round unanimous decision in Tyson's favor.
Andy, do you want to give your prediction? We did it on the Lee Wood one, so let's do it.
I was wrong on that one, so I know on this one I got to be in your favor.
I actually think Tyson is taking this fight seriously. I think he was hurt by some of the comments that Deontay came out with after that second fight. I mean, some of the stuff was a bit ridiculous. I think Tyson was a little bit. I think they had respect for each other after that first fight, and then the comments that came out from Deontay after the second fight. I think all that respect's gone out the window. I think Tyson wants to knock him out, and I think he wants to knock him out quickly, just because of that. So I've gone for a really early finish.
Wow.
Whereas I'm somewhere in the middle. So I think they'll have a bit of a chess match, like you mentioned, Roberto. I think there'll be a chess match for a good 2 or 3 rounds. But then I think Tyson will realise Wilder's revert to type. Because I'm a big believer in what Mike Tyson said. Everyone's got a game plan until they get punched in the face. I haven't seen nothing that tells me Deontay Wilder is going to be work off the jab. I just don't think he's got that ability. So I think round seven, Tyson Fury will knock him out. So there's a good chance one of us are going to be right because Roberto's gone long, we're in the middle, and you've gone earlier.
Well, what if Wilder wins by knockout and we're all wrong?
We're all wrong.
Roberto, there won't be a part 3 if Wilder wins. So anyway, on that note, Roberto, let me just say thank you again for coming on. I really do appreciate your time. It really is a privilege and a pleasure to have you on the channel. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
No, Andy, thank you very much again. So Roberto, take care. Good luck with the matchmaking. Good luck with the future fights. No doubt we'll be in touch in the future. Not too much red wine because it's not good for you. And what we might do is I might send you a Lee Wood cap over or T-shirt at some stage.
I'll wear it. I'll take a picture. Hey, he's a champion and he won it. And you know what? He wanted, like I said, you have to win it. Go knock him out. You know, I think and I'll tell you this, as much as Shukan, you guys know Shukan is, we promote him, I support him. When I was reading, I was on a flight. So I wasn't watching the fight. I got on internet, and the internet on the plane wasn't good enough where the fight was pausing and freezing.
Yeah, I was sending you the odd message, wasn't I? Gloating, Roberto. One time
But I started reading social media, and it was different than what I was watching on the plane, because I saw, like, even going into the 11th or 12th round, people posting it's even. I have it close, and I'm like, wait a minute, am I watching the same fight? Because as much as I want, but I'm wanting to believe him because I'm freezing, so I'm not getting the full 3 minutes. I'm thinking that's not what I'm seeing. I mean, I thought he would completely win. But if there was any doubt whether the fight was close or not, regardless of what the outcome would have been with the 3 judges, he took it out of everybody's hands by getting the knockout even in the last round, where he could have said, I got the fight won. Why risk?
Yeah.
Let me coast and win clear. But that's how you have to win. And for them, it feels much better that, hey, I got knocked out. I didn't get a decision given to me, or a hometown or not, or this or that. Not that that was the case in that fight. I mean, he won the fight. But to win by knockout, there's no better feeling. And for the fans, and to become a much more loved opponent, fighter.
Yeah. It would have done Lee Wood's career the world of good, wouldn't it, that win? You know, it's propelled him up the rankings, and, you know, who knows what fight. Obviously, the rematch looks like it's going to take place, but it just shows you how when you take these opportunities in boxing, you know, you take these chances, you never know where you're going to end up, do you, Roberto?
Absolutely. I mean, I'll tell you on that, David Coldwell had called me or sent me a message maybe like a year before. Hey, would you consider Lee Wood? And I said, we got bigger fish right now. We're looking into bigger fights and this and that. Thanks, but I'll let you know if something comes up. And sure enough, it came up. And you know what? That's the beauty of the sport. Look, it's a world sport loved by all because it goes round and round. Today it's him. Tomorrow it's Conlon. Tomorrow it's back to Shuka. You know, it just travels. So congratulations once again to Lee Wood. Happy belated birthday to Ricky Hatton. And to all the fans out there, Last Bell Boxing, don't miss that fight this weekend. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be epic.
Appreciate it, Roberto. Have a good rest of the day, and we'll speak to you soon. Okay.
Likewise, pal. Stay safe.
Take care, Roberto.
Take care. Bye.